Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. T-Mobile is offering fiber broadband in 13 markets now, and they're doing that through open access networks, which is a good idea. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. I saw this story and thought it was interesting because I knew T-Mobile was doing this. I didn't know how prevalent it was and what the markets were, but I knew they were offering fiber in some areas. They're different from an AT&T or a Verizon that already was actually providing wireline broadband in addition to their mobile services. Of course, Verizon had Fios, still has. I guess they still call it Fios. You got AT&T, they're doing fiber. AT&T and Verizon both doing DSL before fiber. So they were traditional wireline broadband providers in addition to being mobile carriers. Now, all three, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T offer fixed wireless 5G services as well. So you can get faster fixed wireless. When I say faster, I mean using mid-band spectrum and even millimeter wave spectrum in the case of Verizon, getting fast service, let's say above broadband kinds of speeds with C-band, with other mid-band spectrum as well as millimeter wave. So they're all offering mobile service and have been doing that traditionally. AT&T and Verizon doing the wired service for years and years, but T-Mobile, strictly a mobile player and more recently a fixed wireless player in the broadband market. So how do they get into fiber? Well, they can build the networks themselves. I'm not aware of them doing that anywhere. Or they can find markets that have an open access network where they can then just really be just a retailer on that network. And it depends on the open access network, how much they have to do in the field. It's possible, in some cases, open access networks they'll have their own technicians, which will go out and do the customer install and do any field kind of service. If the customer has a problem, maybe can go out to roll a truck and fix that. Or in some cases, that's left up to the company that's going to be marketing the service over that open access broadband network. So I'm not sure which of those T-Mobile is going on, or maybe a combination of the two. They certainly have people in, contractors in various areas, maybe different kinds of contractors if they're doing the mobile service there. It may depend on whether they have mobile service somewhere, whether they're going to offer the fiber as well, but it doesn't have to be there because these open access networks, they can offer it anywhere. The only question is, do they have contractors that they can use or their own people that they can use to, like I say, do customer installs and do any field troubleshooting, not maintenance, but field support, rolling a truck to a home if there's an issue, swapping out a device if they need to do that, or checking a device, those kinds of things that broadband operators traditionally do. Try to avoid if they can. They're trying to limit truck rolls if they can, but you always have to go out there at some point. So who is doing that? I don't know. T-Mobile, you see, now offers fiber broadband in 13 markets. This is a story in Fierce Telecom. T-Mobile is making steady progress with its initiative to offer fiber internet service. It's now selling fiber service in 13 markets, according to the availability tab on its website. Fierce Telecom reached out to them, and the company named the fiber providers it's working with in each market. They've got Tillman Fiber Company in Pinellas County and Polk County in Florida, Intrepid Fiber Networks in Pueblo and North Glen, Colorado, in Bloomington, in St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, and Eden Prairie in Minnesota. Sci-Fi Networks in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Rockford, Illinois, Farmington area, Michigan, and Oceanside in Palmdale, California, and Pilot Fiber in New York City. Fierce Wireless has previously reported that T-Mobile is working with Intrepid Fiber and Pilot Fiber. They've been keeping tabs on T-Mobile's newest markets, reporting that T-Mobile is working with Tillman in Florida and Sci-Fi Networks in Michigan. So they have been kind of tracking that. But today's news is just how many markets T-Mobile continues to light up. The wireless carrier seems to prefer working with providers who build open access networks. And when they say prefers working with them, I don't know if that means that they do have some networks that they have built themselves, or exactly what that means. These networks are deployed by one company and then leased to multiple internet service providers, which can then offer broadband service to end customers. Again, that's what an open access network is. A lot of times it could be a city that says, hey, we need better internet access here, and the incumbents really, we don't feel like they're doing the job they need to be doing, or maybe they provide okay service, but it's too expensive. So they will build a municipal network, but they don't necessarily want to be in the internet business. They don't want to be the company that's marketing that, retailing it, and in some cases, like I say, doing the installs. So they might leave that up to companies that come in then on that open access network. So the companies that come in don't need to worry about building out the fiber infrastructure. They may, like I say, need to do the drops from the curb to the customer home, that kind of thing, to get those set up, but they don't necessarily need to build all the fiber infrastructure. They don't do that. And in some cases, they don't even need to have people there. If the open access network provider has that kind of staff as well, then they're just a marketing team, basically. And they just need to have marketing, usual stuff. If you're an internet service provider that's not the technical side, you need to market the service. You need to be able to bill for the service. You need good customer support. That would be for issues like billing or technical support. So technical support doesn't just mean, hey, my service isn't working. It's how do I do this, or how do I do that? Could be, I've got a security suite. How do I install or configure that? I've got my home Wi-Fi network, but how do I add this port blocking or whatever port, something through the route, or those kinds of things? Those kinds of questions come up, and internet service providers need to be able to answer that, preferably, and not, otherwise customers are not happy if they can't get an answer from their ISP. So, and by the way, if you need help with internet support, we do all of those things. We've got a help desk call center that we have hundreds of ISPs that are using, that call us. Their customers call us, and they can get help with the connection, anything from the connection through to home Wi-Fi networks, security suites, those kinds of things we can help with. So just keep that in mind. According to T-Mobile's website, it offers symmetrical speed tiers up to 2 gig. The speed tiers and prices vary based on a specific location. All of its plans include a Wi-Fi 6 router, which is cool. So, in fact, I'll pull that up here. So this is their site. What is the URL? TMobilefiber.com. So they've got a specific URL for it. Get fiber internet starting at $55 a month. We offer top-notch service at competitive flat rate prices. So again, if you compare this to what you may get if you call your cable operator, a lot of times cable operator, they have a charge for the equipment, the cable modem, let's say. They'll buy $10 a month or something like that. They have a lot of times a term commitment where you got to sign up for a year or two, and that's how you get the low prices. But T-Mobile, like their fixed wireless product, and like a lot of fiber operators, are not having a term that you have to sign up for. So you see here they've got 500, a gig, and 2 gig. Usually the best value they always stick in the middle there. So that's your gig internet. And it says that, again, it says that it's not available. Plans and prices may vary by location. And that could be for a couple of different reasons. Like I said, it could be that in some locations they're having to do more work, like installs and those kinds of things, where they don't in other locations. Or it could be that, obviously the price that a open access provider is going to charge T-Mobile and other people that are on there riding their network could vary from location to location. Also, some open access networks may not offer anything higher, let's say, than a gig. So maybe they can't offer 2 gig in every area. So you don't know. When you come up here, you can put in your address and find out if you have service. And when you do that, I would imagine it would then come up with the specifics for your area, like what the actual prices and plans are. If 2 gig is available, for example, and it could be that there'd be higher speeds for fiber available in some areas. It could be that they've got 5 gig, 10 gig, 25 gig. If they were doing it in a city that's or a open access network that makes that available, it's going to be expensive, but they could offer that. So again, looking at the details on these, prices look good. So the low end, $55 for 500 megs. That's symmetrical. So half a gig each way. A gig, $70 a month. That's good. So a lot of times you'll see that. That's kind of on the lower end that you'll see on fiber prices. AT&T, I think, is $80, and that's if you're, it's if you're doing all of the, bill, get your bill by email and those kinds of things. That's about as low as I think I've seen it. Then you've got a 2 gig plan here for $100 a month. So that's good for 2 gig. Most people, this would be the best. I don't know about the best value, but this is where a lot of people are going to land. But honestly, you could save, $15 a month and go with 500 symmetrical, and that would probably be enough, depending on what you're doing, but really 500 megs, half a gig, symmetrical is really pretty good service. You could probably get by on that, and like I say, save $15 a month. So this may be the best value. Although I would say that's the best value if you don't need this, and chances are you don't, I would say. So again, features here, equal uploads and download speeds, so symmetrical is what they're talking about there. Wi-Fi 6 router included. Again, that's nice. You don't have any kind of a rental fee, it sounds like, for that router. It's Wi-Fi 6, so it's going to be fast. You're going to be able to take advantage of these speeds here. It's possible that it would use the 6. It's not Wi-Fi 6 because it can do 6 gigahertz, but that is something. It's Wi-Fi 6E, I think. It doesn't say Wi-Fi 6E, so maybe it doesn't do that particular bit of spectrum, but fast router. No annual contracts, that's important. So again, a lot of times you sign up for these things, it's like, you get a special price, and then a year later or 2 years later, however long that term is, you've got to renegotiate, threaten to quit, threaten to go somewhere else, and then they will maybe give you the same price again. So there's none of that. As I've said before, if you're an internet service provider and you provide good service, and that means a good connection, good quality connection, and good customer service and technical support, then you shouldn't have to lock people in, because once you get a customer, if you're providing that good service, it's going to take a lot for them to leave, and generally that's going to be a much lower price. So I guess that's the other factor. As long as you're providing a competitive, a reasonable price, then you should not lose a customer. And if you lose a customer, if you're providing a good competitive price, meaning that you're not price gouging, and a competitor should not be able to come in there and undercut you so badly that they would take a customer from you unless they're undercutting you and losing money, or not making a profit. And they're not going to stay in business long. So if they do that to a number of, and get a number of customers, or charging them, no more, they're not making a profit, or they're losing money, they're not going to be in business long, and you'll get your customers back at that point. So I love it. I love to see it when internet service providers are confident in their service and can just provide a straight price, and that's what you get. And again, so no contracts, you get your router. Now, again, these guys, T-Mobile, I think, is in a strong position because they've got a national company. So they've got strong marketing. They've got strong customer service and technical support. I'm actually one of their mobile customers, so I've gotten good support when I've needed to call them about my mobile telephone service. So I'm sure that they can provide good internet service as well. So whatever open access network they come on, they're going to be competing with other ISPs that are either in that area, maybe local ISPs that are doing the service, or again, any national operator. AT&T could come on there and do this as well. AT&T could go on these same networks and compete with them. And ironically enough, AT&T has, they've got their partnership now with BlackRock, where they've got a partnership called Gigapower. And that is where BlackRock basically is funding and building out the infrastructure. And then AT&T is a tenant on that open access network. So BlackRock, Gigapower sets up the open access network. AT&T can choose to be one of the tenants on there, as can anybody else, like a T-Mobile can come on there. So you've got these open access networks that can help drive prices down. There is a risk when you have multiple providers in an area on these open access networks, then there's always that risk of, are there enough customers to support all of those providers? But when it's an open access network like this, if really all you're doing is marketing the service and supporting, providing technical support, customer support, that kind of thing, then you don't have the costs of the infrastructure. So unlike, T-Mobile, when they're doing their mobile service, if it's their towers, those kinds of things, they have to maintain all of that. In this case, they don't have anything to maintain except maybe the drop to the customer and those kinds of things. So it's going to be much less expensive for the companies on these open access networks. So they're basically competing on kind of a level ground. But T-Mobile, I think, has an advantage because, again, they've got this huge presence and huge marketing teams and customer service already set up. They've got partnerships with streaming companies. I don't think they're necessarily, it doesn't mention here. It could be that when you click on your area, it might say, hey, this comes with 6 months of Hulu or something like that. Or it comes with Netflix at a reduced price because T-Mobile offers that on their mobile plans. So it could be that they offer that, or that they could give you that maybe on one of these higher price plans, so that if you get the gig or the 2 gig, you get that thrown in as well. So they've got those kinds of partnerships in place. So They could do really well at this. So I would say wherever they could find an open access network, whether they provide mobile service there or not, and they pretty much provide it everywhere, but whether they do or not, I would say it would be smart for them to get into that business, because they can't anywhere else unless they build the network. Again, unlike AT&T or Verizon, even AT&T now, even though they've kind of slowed down on their own bills and they're doing some of it through the Gigapower partnership, they're still able to do that in areas where if they want to be the only provider and they want to build out the infrastructure, they can do that. And Verizon, same thing. They can go out and they can be the only operator on their network. If they build it, they own it. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining me. If this was interesting, if you'd give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, and you can ring the bell and you'll be notified when I'm live. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.